Neo Dubai sparkled under the bright morning sun. The towers of glass and steel reflected the golden light, making the city appear alive with energy. Flying cars zipped between the buildings, leaving streaks of color in their paths. On the top floor of the tallest tower, a large boardroom waited for the final signing of the biggest business deal of the year. The $500 million contract could change the future of Amir's company forever. Amir stood by the window, looking out at the city below. He was young but confident. His sharp eyes scanned the streets, watching the people going about their day. Neo Dubai had always fascinated him, not just for its wealth, but for the way people use skill and intelligence to rise above challenges. Today he would show that his company was ready for the next level. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere was tense. Long tables stretched across the room, covered with papers, tablets, and communication devices. Executives in crisp suits checked their devices and whispered to one another. Investors from all over the world had gathered for this moment. Everyone was watching, waiting for Amir to put his signature on the contract that would seal the $500 million deal. At the same time, in a quiet corner of the same building, Lena, the maid's daughter, moved quickly. She carried a small cleaning cart, carefully polishing the shiny floor. Lena was young, clever, and always observant. She had learned to watch people carefully. Even though she had no official place in the business world, her mind was sharp, and she noticed things others missed. As she cleaned, Lena's eyes fell on a stack of papers left unattended on the edge of the table in the boardroom. The top page showed words she did not fully understand, but her curiosity pushed her to look closer. She had grown up helping her mother, who worked for the families of powerful people. From a young age, Lena had learned to read expressions, listen carefully, and notice tiny details. Something about the papers made her uneasy. She sensed that they were not as simple as everyone thought. Meanwhile, Amir returned to the table. He sat down, his hands steady despite the excitement in the room. He had prepared for this moment for months. Every presentation, every negotiation, every long meeting had led to this. His heart beat steadily, but his mind stayed sharp. The executives across from him smiled politely, unaware that a small but dangerous detail had been hidden in the contract. The room filled with polite greetings and murmurs. Amir's assistant brought the pens, and the lawyers gave their final confirmations. Everyone was ready. The investors watched closely. Some leaned forward, eager to see the deal finalized. Some looked at Amir with respect, knowing that he had worked hard to reach this stage. Lena moved closer to the papers. She could see lines of text that were strange. She recognized some symbols and words from the Arabic classes she had attended with her mother. Though she was not fluent, something did not seem right. Her eyes scanned the lines carefully, comparing what she remembered from other contracts she had seen. She noticed patterns that suggested a hidden clause, something that could be dangerous for Amir's company. Her heart raced. She knew she had to act carefully. If anyone saw her interfering, she could be dismissed from the building or worse. But she could not ignore what she had discovered. The deal was too important, and she knew that even one wrong signature could change everything. Amir began to read the contract aloud. The words sounded normal to most people, polite and professional. But Lena's trained eyes noticed the small letters, the hidden phrases buried in legal language. They were cleverly written to give control of Amir's company to the other side after a certain period. If signed, the contract would look like a success, but the power would quietly shift away from him. Lena took a deep breath. She needed a plan. She could not just run into the room and shout. She had to find a way to get Amir's attention, without causing a scene. Moving silently, she positioned herself near the edge of the boardroom. When Amir paused to read a section, she quickly stepped forward, catching his eye. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. Amir looked up, surprised. It was unusual for anyone outside the meeting to speak, and certainly unusual for a young girl to interrupt such an important moment. "Yes?" Amir asked politely. He noticed her serious expression and the way she held the papers. There was something different about her, something that made him stop and pay attention. I think there is a mistake in the contract," she said. "I noticed something that could be dangerous for you." Her voice was quiet but firm. The room went silent for a moment. The executives and lawyers looked at Amir, curious about his reaction. Amir studied the girl carefully. She looked ordinary, but her eyes were sharp. There was honesty in her voice, and something in her tone made him believe she might be telling the truth. "Show me," Amir said calmly. He gestured for her to come closer. The girl carefully placed the papers on the table and pointed to the lines that worried her. Amir leaned in, his eyes scanning the text. Slowly, his expression changed. The carefully hidden clauses were clever, but they were visible to someone who knew where to look. "You are right," Amir whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. He looked up at Lena. "How did you notice this?" "I pay attention," she said simply. "I read many things and I remember patterns. Something about this contract looked wrong to me." Amir nodded. He realized the risk. The other executives had assumed he would sign without noticing. They had relied on the complexity of the language to hide the trap. But a sharp mind, even from someone with no official power, could uncover it. Amir felt a mixture of relief and admiration. Relief that the trap was discovered before signing, and admiration for the courage of the girl who risked speaking up. He motioned for her to stay close as he continued to read the contract. With her help, he began to untangle the hidden terms. Each line revealed a strategy designed to gain control of his company quietly. The clauses were written in such a way that even experienced lawyers could have missed them if they were not careful. But Lena's attention to detail and quick thinking made all the difference. Time passed quickly. The investors grew restless, and the executives on the other side noticed that something was slowing the process. Amir remained calm, focused on the task at hand. Lena stayed near him, pointing out details and offering insights when he asked. She had no title, no authority, but her intelligence was now the key to saving the deal. By the time Amir finished reviewing the contract, the room had shifted. The other executives could no longer hide their surprise. They had underestimated him, and more importantly, they had underestimated the power of someone who had been invisible to them. Lena had changed everything with her careful observation and courage. Amir took a deep breath and looked at Lena. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "You just saved this deal." She smiled, shy but proud. Her mother had always told her that intelligence and courage could come from anyone, and now she had proven it. The boardroom slowly returned to normal. Amir called the lawyers back to review the corrected contract. The investors watched closely, impressed by his diligence and the way he handled the situation. No one else knew the full story of how a maid's daughter had prevented a disaster, but Amir would remember. Lena's sharp mind had turned a moment of potential failure into a victory. As the meeting resumed, Amir felt a new sense of respect for the people around him, no matter their status. Talent and intelligence could not be judged by appearance or title. And in a city like Neo Dubai, where ambition and innovation ruled, that lesson was more important than ever. Lena returned to her small cleaning cart, quiet but smiling. She had played a part in something much bigger than herself, and though the deal was not yet signed, she knew that the truth and courage of one person could change the course of events in ways no one expected. The sun shone brightly on Neo Dubai, and the city seemed to pulse with possibility. For Amir, for Lena, and for everyone in the tower, the day had begun as ordinary but had turned extraordinary. A single insight, a single act of bravery had made all the difference. The $500 million deal had been saved, and a new chapter was beginning for those willing to see beyond appearances and trust in intelligence and courage. After the interruption in the boardroom, the meeting had paused. Amir now sat with a serious expression, his mind racing. He had read the first few pages of the contract and realized the danger, but the full extent of the trap was still unclear. Lena, standing beside him quietly, had a feeling that the hidden clauses were only the surface of a much larger problem. The executives across the table had tried to mask their irritation. They were used to powerful business people signing without question. They had assumed that Amir would do the same. But now their confident smiles were gone. They exchanged brief glances, worried that the young businessman in front of them might see through their plan. Lena's eyes moved back to the contract. The Arabic phrases were tricky, carefully crafted to confuse anyone who did not understand them fully. They were woven into the legal language in a way that could slowly transfer ownership of Amir's company to another entity. If left unchecked, the contract would give complete control to the other side within months. The trap was clever, but it was not invisible. Lena had the advantage of noticing patterns that most people ignored. Amir leaned back in his chair. "I need to see every part of this contract," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "Nothing can be left unchecked." The executives tried to protest, saying that everything had already been approved by lawyers. Amir ignored them. "This is my company," he said. "I will not risk it for a quick signature." Lena nodded silently. She had learned early in life that caution and careful thinking were often more powerful than speed. Her mother had always reminded her that the smallest detail could change everything. Today, those lessons mattered more than ever. Together, Amir and Lena began to review the contract in detail. Lena pointed to each line that seemed unusual, explaining why it could be a problem. She spoke in simple language, breaking down the complex terms so that Amir could understand quickly. The executives across the table grew restless. They had never expected that a maid's daughter could uncover such a sophisticated trap. Hours passed. The room was quiet except for the sound of flipping papers and soft discussions between Amir and Lena. Investors outside the boardroom were curious, noticing the delay, but no one knew the real reason. Lena worked quickly, checking and rechecking each section. She noticed phrases that allowed for hidden fees, clauses that could force the company to give up patents, and terms that could make Amir's board powerless. The trap was larger and more dangerous than anyone had guessed. Amir's mind raced as he absorbed the information. He realized how carefully the other side had planned this. They had assumed that no one would read the contract closely, and they had counted on the distractions of a busy day to mask their strategy. But now with Lena's sharp insight, every trick was visible. The hidden plan could no longer work. "Lena, how did you notice this?" Amir asked quietly. He did not mean to praise her, but he could not hide his admiration. "I always look for patterns," she replied. "Even small details can tell a story. Something about this contract felt wrong and I followed my instincts." She glanced at the executives across the table. "People hide things when they think others will not notice." "I noticed," Amir nodded. He realized that her courage was as important as her intelligence. Speaking up in front of powerful people was not easy, yet she had done it without fear. That combination of courage and skill could not be ignored. The executives were now trying to regain control of the situation. "Mr. Amir," one of them said, "you are mistaken. The contract is standard. There is nothing unusual." His tone was firm, but Amir could see the worry behind his eyes. Amir shook his head. "I am not mistaken. There are clauses here that will take control of my company in secret. I cannot allow this to happen." His voice grew stronger. He turned to Lena. "Show them what you found." Lena carefully explained the clauses, translating the Arabic phrases and pointing out how they could transfer ownership, control patents, and give the other side hidden power. She spoke with clarity, using examples that everyone could understand. Slowly, the room began to grasp the situation. Even the investors who had been watching quietly realized that something serious had been uncovered. The executives tried to argue, claiming that these clauses were standard practice, but Amir remained firm. "This is not standard. This is a trap. You cannot manipulate my company without my approval." His eyes met theirs and they understood that he would not back down. Lena continued her careful review. She found another section that outlined penalties if certain conditions were not met. These penalties could have forced Amir's company to give up critical technology. The clauses were written in a way that looked harmless at first glance, but hidden inside were strict terms that would weaken Amir's position. Amir's mind worked quickly. He realized that if he had signed without reviewing every page, the company would have been in serious danger within months. The hidden clauses were designed to look invisible, but would slowly give control to the other side. He was grateful for Lena's sharp eyes and her courage to speak up. The room grew tense. The executives knew they had been caught. Their plan had depended on secrecy and the assumption that Amir would not notice. Now their trap had been exposed in front of everyone. They tried to remain calm, but their gestures betrayed worry. Amir decided that the contract could not be signed in its current form. He looked at the investors and explained the situation carefully. "This contract contains clauses that are not fair and could take control of my company without my consent. I will not sign until these issues are corrected." His voice was steady, commanding respect. The investors murmured among themselves. Some looked concerned, while others nodded in approval. They appreciated that Amir was cautious and that he was protecting his company. They understood that a smart leader must see beyond appearances and question hidden dangers. Lena stayed close to Amir, watching the reactions of the executives. She realized that her observations had made a real difference. People who had thought her powerless were now forced to take her seriously. The hidden trap was no longer invisible, and her courage had given Amir the advantage. Hours passed as Amir and Lena continued their work. They checked every section, translating terms, comparing clauses, and ensuring that no hidden dangers remained. Each discovery made Amir more determined to protect his company. He realized that intelligence, courage, and careful observation could prevent disaster even when others tried to manipulate the outcome. Finally, they reached the last pages of the contract. Lena pointed out one final clause that could have caused long-term problems. Amir reviewed it carefully and nodded. With her help, he had identified every hidden danger. The trap that had threatened the $500 million deal was fully exposed. Amir looked at Lena with gratitude. "You have saved this company today. Without your help, I would not have seen these traps." Her smile was quiet but proud. She had learned that her careful observation and courage could make a real difference in the world. The executives on the other side now realized that their plan had failed. They had underestimated Amir and the young girl who had noticed what others missed. Their confidence was gone, replaced by careful calculation as they tried to regain some control. But Amir was prepared. He knew the value of intelligence, honesty, and courage. Lena stepped back as Amir called the lawyers to discuss revisions. The contract would need to be corrected to remove the hidden clauses. The investors were informed, and the executives had no choice but to cooperate. The trap that had been designed to secretly control the company could no longer work. As the meeting continued, Amir reflected on the day. He had learned that power alone was not enough. True success came from careful thinking, attention to detail, and the courage to act when others ignored what was important. Lena had shown all of these qualities. When the meeting finally ended for the day, Amir and Lena stepped out together. The city of Neo Dubai glimmered in the late afternoon light. Flying cars streaked past and people moved below, unaware of the drama that had unfolded above them. Amir smiled at Lena. "You have a bright future ahead," he said. "Today you proved that intelligence and courage matter more than status or title." Lena felt proud but remained humble. She had only done what she thought was right, yet it had made a tremendous difference. The executives left quietly, knowing their plan had failed. Amir and Lena returned to his office to prepare for the next steps. The contract would be corrected, and the deal could continue safely. But the lesson remained clear. Hidden traps could exist even in the most polished documents, and careful observation was always necessary. Lena returned home that evening, her mind buzzing with the events of the day. She shared the story with her mother, who hugged her tightly. "I knew you were special," her mother said. "You have the eyes to see what others miss and the courage to act." Amir, on the other hand, worked late into the night, reviewing the contract one last time. He knew that with Lena's help he could protect his company from hidden threats. The $500 million deal was no longer just about money. It was about intelligence, vigilance, and the courage to act when it mattered most. Neo Dubai shone brightly outside his window, a city of opportunity and challenge. Amir. The next morning, the boardroom in Neo Dubai was filled with a tense atmosphere. Amir arrived early, carrying the revised contract. The sunlight reflected off the glass walls, casting long lines across the polished floor. He knew the executives from the other side would be waiting, expecting to regain control of the meeting. But today, Amir was not just armed with documents. He had insight, preparation, and Lena's guidance. Lena had arrived quietly, holding a folder with her notes. She had stayed up late the night before, reviewing the hidden clauses, confirming the translations, and preparing to explain the threat in clear, simple language. She knew that today her role was critical. If the executives tried to manipulate or intimidate Amir, she had to be ready to show the hidden trap without hesitation. As the executives entered, their confident smiles were gone. They had assumed Amir would be unprepared, but now he had discovered their plan. Their eyes flicked nervously to the papers in Amir's hand. One executive, a tall man in a dark suit, tried to project calm. "Mr. Amir, we believe the contract is fair. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding." Amir shook his head, his expression firm. "There is no misunderstanding. The contract contains clauses designed to transfer control of my company secretly. I cannot sign this unless they are removed. His voice was calm but unwavering. And I have evidence to show this. He motioned to Lena. She stepped forward, her hand steady despite the tension in the room. She laid out the pages and pointed to the clauses that had caused concern. One by one, she explained each hidden term, translating the Arabic phrases, showing how control could be taken gradually, and revealing the clever penalties embedded in the legal language. The executives shifted uneasily in their chairs. They had expected a simple signature, not a detailed exposure of their trap. One of them tried to interrupt, saying, "This is normal business practice." "You are overreacting." Amir held up his hand. "This is not normal. This is a deliberate attempt to take control without my consent. The clauses are hidden, written to confuse and mislead. I will not accept this," Lena continued, calmly pointing out every hidden detail. She showed how small fees could accumulate into large losses, how patents could be claimed by the other side, and how control could slowly shift through legal loopholes. Each example was clear and understandable, leaving no room for argument. The investors in the room who had been watching quietly began to murmur among themselves. One of the lawyers from the other side tried to argue. "These clauses are standard. You are reading too much into them." Amir looked directly at the lawyer. "They are not standard. If they were, they would be visible and fair. These are traps designed to mislead. I will not sign until every one of them is corrected." The tension in the room grew. The executives realized that their careful plan had been exposed, and they could no longer manipulate the situation. Amir's calm but firm demeanor, combined with Lena's detailed observations, had turned the tables. Lena pointed to a particularly dangerous section. "This part allows control of the company's patents to be transferred if certain conditions are met," she said. "It seems small, but it could give the other side total power in months. It is written to look harmless, but it is not." The room went silent. Investors leaned forward, impressed by her clarity and courage. They realized that a young girl with no title or authority had uncovered a trap that even experienced executives had hoped would go unnoticed. Amir watched her carefully, proud of her skill and composure. One of the executives finally spoke. "We did not expect this level of scrutiny. Perhaps we can explain the intention behind these clauses." Amir shook his head. "Intention does not matter if the outcome is unfair. You cannot control my company without my agreement. I will not allow it." Lena continued her review, pointing out hidden penalties that could have forced Amir's company to give up valuable technology. She spoke clearly, translating terms and showing how the clauses could be misused. Each point left the other side with fewer defenses. Their confident smiles were gone, replaced by tension and unease. Amir's voice grew firmer. "I am willing to negotiate a fair contract, but the hidden clauses must be removed. I cannot risk my company for a signature that hides danger." Investors began to nod in agreement. They saw the logic and fairness in Amir's approach. Protecting a company from hidden traps was not only wise but necessary. The executives realized they had underestimated both Amir and Lena. Their careful plan had failed, and the power in the room had shifted. Lena paused, looking directly at the tallest executive. "You assumed that no one would notice the hidden terms. You thought appearances and authority would protect you. But intelligence and observation matter more than status. Even a small voice can prevent disaster." Her words echoed in the room. The investors were impressed by her courage and clarity. Amir saw the respect forming in their eyes. Respect not for wealth or title, but for truth and insight. He knew that today they had all learned an important lesson. The executives tried to recover, but Amir remained calm. He had the facts, the translations, and Lena's guidance. Each hidden clause had been exposed, and the consequences of signing without correction were clear. There was no room for deception. Amir leaned forward. "We can continue this deal, but it must be fair. Every hidden clause must be removed, and the contract must be transparent. Only then will I sign," Lena added. "Transparency ensures trust. Hidden traps only create problems. A fair contract benefits everyone, but deception harms everyone in the long run." The room was quiet. Even the most confident executive realized they had been outmatched by intelligence and courage. Amir's firmness, combined with Lena's insight, had exposed a trap that no one had expected to fail. The hidden clauses could no longer be enforced without damaging the credibility of everyone in the room. Amir took a deep breath. This is not about conflict. This is about fairness and protection. I will not risk my company, but I am willing to continue the discussion with honesty. Lena nodded. She had learned that courage and clarity could change the outcome, even in a room filled with powerful people. Her observations and attention to detail had saved the deal from disaster, and she knew that honesty and intelligence could overcome even the most carefully crafted plans. The executives finally relented. They agreed to remove the hidden clauses and revise the contract. It was not the outcome they had hoped for, but it was necessary to continue the deal. Amir and Lena had forced transparency, and no one could argue against the evidence laid out clearly in front of them. Amir smiled at Lena. You were right. The trap was clever, but your insight made all the difference. Without your help, I might not have seen it. Lena smiled back, quietly proud. She had played a critical role in protecting the company, and her courage had earned respect from people she had never imagined would listen. The boardroom slowly relaxed. The investors nodded, satisfied that the deal could now continue safely. The executives returned to their seats, now aware that every action would be carefully watched. Amir had regained control and the trap had been fully exposed. After the meeting, Amir and Lena walked out together. The city of Neo Dubai stretched out before them, shining with light and energy. Flying cars streaked past, and the streets below were filled with people going about their day. Amir felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Today, intelligence, observation, and courage had triumphed over deception. Lena felt proud but humble. She had only done what she thought was right, yet her actions had made a tremendous difference. She had learned that even the smallest voice, when paired with intelligence and bravery, could prevent disaster. Back in the office, Amir reviewed the revised contract one last time. Every clause had been corrected and the hidden traps removed. The $500 million deal was now safe and the future of his company secure. But the lesson remained clear. Careful observation, courage, and honesty could protect even the most valuable enterprises. Neo Dubai glimmered in the afternoon sun, a city of opportunity and challenge. Amir realized that the strength of a company was not only in technology or money, but in the people who could think critically, notice details, and act when it mattered most. Lena had proven this beyond doubt. As the day ended, Amir reflected on the events. The confrontation had been tense, but it had demonstrated that power alone could not secure success. Intelligence and integrity mattered more than authority. Lena had shown that courage and sharp thinking could change the outcome, even when facing powerful opponents. The executives had left quietly, realizing their trap had failed. Amir and Lena prepared for the next steps, knowing that the deal could now continue fairly. The hidden dangers had been removed and the company was safe. Lena returned home, her mind buzzing with the lessons of the day. She shared her experiences with her mother, who hugged her tightly. You were brave and wise, her mother said. You have a gift for seeing what others overlook. Amir, too, felt a quiet satisfaction. The $500 million deal had been protected, and the company's future secured. More importantly, he had learned the value of intelligence, careful observation, and courage. Lena had shown that even someone without status could have a decisive impact on the outcome. Neo Dubai continued to shine outside the windows, a city full of promise and challenge. The sun rose over Neo Dubai, casting a golden light over the city's towers. The streets buzzed with flying cars, pedestrians, and drones delivering messages. On the top floor of the tallest tower, Amir arrived early, carrying the final revised contract. Today was the day the deal would either succeed or fail. He knew the other executives would be present, likely tense and cautious after yesterday's confrontation. But Amir was ready. Lena arrived shortly after him, holding her folder with notes. Her expression was calm, but inside, she felt excitement and responsibility. Yesterday had been intense, and today required her sharp mind again. She had double-checked every clause, ensuring that no hidden traps remained. Amir's trust in her had grown, and she knew that her observations could once again guide the outcome. The executives entered, their faces neutral, but their eyes cautious. They had learned that Amir and Lena were vigilant, and any attempt to manipulate or intimidate would be noticed immediately. They sat down quietly, arranging their tablets and papers, preparing for what they hoped would be a smooth meeting. Amir placed the revised contract on the table and looked at everyone calmly. This contract has been reviewed carefully. All clauses that could have hidden dangers have been removed. We can now continue fairly and transparently." His voice was steady, leaving no room for argument. One of the executives, the tallest man in the group, leaned forward slightly. "Mr. Amir, we have reviewed your comments and understand your concerns. We are willing to proceed with the contract under your guidance." His tone was cautious, but there was a trace of relief. He realized that pushing further could risk losing the deal entirely. Lena stepped forward, holding the pages that detailed the previous traps. "These clauses were designed to shift control secretly. They have been removed. Transparency ensures trust. Everyone benefits when contracts are fair." She spoke clearly and calmly, translating the Arabic phrases where necessary. Her confidence impressed even the investors who were watching closely. The room fell silent as the executives studied the documents. They had tried to hide the traps before, but now the contract was clean, and Amir and Lena's preparation was clear. There was no room for deception. They realized that any attempt to manipulate the process would be immediately noticed and could damage their reputation. Amir leaned back slightly, reviewing the documents one last time. He felt confident. The risk had been removed, the traps exposed, and the contract fair. The deal could now move forward and his company would be secure. But he also knew that the lesson went beyond the contract. Intelligence, careful observation, and courage had proven more powerful than authority and deception. One of the investors, an older man with gray hair, spoke. "It is impressive to see such vigilance. Mr. Amir, your careful review and the young lady's insights have protected the integrity of this deal. We are confident that this agreement will be beneficial for everyone." His words carried weight, and the executives could feel the approval behind them. Amir nodded respectfully. "Thank you. This deal is important, but fairness and protection are more important than speed or appearance. With transparency, we can ensure a positive outcome for all parties." Lena quietly handed the translated notes to Amir, who skimmed through them one last time. Each clause was clear and fair. The hidden dangers had been removed, and nothing could surprise them now. She felt a quiet satisfaction. Her observations and careful preparation had made a real difference. The executives finally spoke, this time with a tone of cooperation. "We understand the importance of fairness. We are ready to finalize the deal, with all hidden clauses removed and clear terms for all parties." Their words showed a mixture of respect and caution. They had realized that Amir and Lena had uncovered their previous plan, and that honesty and transparency were now required. Amir placed his hand on the contract. "Then let us proceed. This agreement is now fair, clear, and mutually beneficial." He looked at Lena, who nodded slightly. Together they had ensured that the hidden trap could no longer harm the company. The lawyers brought pens and began to sign the revised contract. Investors watched closely, noting the careful preparation and thorough review. Each signature symbolized not just a business agreement, but a victory of intelligence, honesty, and vigilance over deception. Lena stayed by Amir's side, quietly observing. She realized that her role, though unofficial, had been crucial. The executives had tried to hide their intentions, but her careful attention and courage had exposed the truth. She felt a sense of pride, knowing that even someone without authority could make a decisive difference. As the final signatures were placed, Amir leaned back in his chair, a sense of relief washing over him. The deal was secure, the hidden dangers removed, and the company protected. The $500 million contract had been saved, not just by wealth or authority, but by intelligence, observation, and bravery. The executives exchanged quiet words among themselves. They knew that their previous attempt to manipulate the contract had failed. The exposure of the hidden clauses had forced transparency and honesty. They could no longer rely on deception or authority alone. Amir's careful attention and Lena's insights had ensured that fairness prevailed. One of the investors stood. "Today we witnessed a remarkable example of vigilance and courage. Protecting the integrity of a deal requires intelligence, observation, and honesty. Mr. Amir and the young lady have demonstrated all of these qualities. It is rare to see such careful attention and clear thinking." Amir nodded, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. "Thank you. Protecting the company and ensuring fairness are my priorities. Today we have achieved both." He looked at Lena, who had quietly contributed to this success. Her courage and intelligence had turned what could have been a disaster into a victory. Lena felt a warm sense of pride. She had observed, analyzed, and spoken up when it mattered most. She had learned that even someone in the background could influence important decisions. Her mother had always told her that intelligence and courage could change the outcome of any situation, and now she had proven it. The executives finally relaxed, understanding that the deal would proceed fairly. They could no longer rely on hidden traps or deception. Amir had regained control, and the company was protected. The $500 million deal could now move forward confidently. After the meeting, Amir and Lena walked out of the boardroom together. The city of Neo Dubai stretched below them, a city full of opportunity, challenge, and possibility. Flying cars streaked past and people moved along the streets unaware of the drama that had unfolded above them. Amir felt a quiet satisfaction. Intelligence, courage, and careful observation had triumphed over deception and hidden agendas. Lena, walking beside him, realized that her careful attention had made a real difference. Her actions had saved the deal and earned respect from people she had never expected to impress. She understood that even small voices could have a tremendous impact when combined with clarity and courage. Back in his office, Amir reviewed the signed contract one final time. Every clause was fair and transparent. The hidden traps had been removed and the company's future was secure. But beyond the contract, he reflected on the lesson of the day. Success was not only about wealth, authority, or technology. True strength came from intelligence, observation, and courage. Lena returned home later, sharing the story of her role with her mother. Her mother hugged her tightly. "I knew you were special," she said. "You noticed what others missed and your courage made all the difference." Lena felt proud, knowing that her careful attention and bravery had been recognized in the most important way. Amir, too, felt a quiet satisfaction. The $500 million deal had been protected, and the company's future secured. More importantly, he had seen that intelligence, careful observation, and courage could overcome deception and authority. Lena had proven that even someone without official status could play a decisive role in achieving success. Neo Dubai glimmered in the late afternoon light, a city full of possibilities. Amir understood that today's events had strengthened not just the contract, but the understanding of what truly mattered: fairness, intelligence, and vigilance. As the sun set, Amir and Lena felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. The hidden traps had been exposed, the deal secured, and the company protected. The $500 million contract had been saved, and a new chapter was beginning, guided by intelligence, honesty, and courage. The city lights of Neo Dubai reflected in their eyes as they looked out together. They knew that challenges would come again, but today they had proven that careful observation, courage, and intelligence could overcome even the most carefully crafted deception. Lena had shown that anyone, no matter their position, could make a difference. In the quiet of the evening, Amir reflected on the journey. The confrontation had been tense, the stakes high, but the outcome had been fair and just. Transparency, careful preparation, and courage had prevailed. The $500 million deal was no longer just a financial contract. It was a story of intelligence and bravery overcoming hidden danger. Lena, sitting quietly at the edge of the office, felt a deep satisfaction. Her observations had been crucial, her courage had been recognized, and her contribution had protected the company. She had learned that even small voices, when combined with careful. The morning in Neo Dubai was calm, the sunlight reflecting off the towers in sparkling patterns. The city below bustled with life, but on the top floor of the tallest building, the atmosphere was focused and serious. Today marked the final stage of the $500 million deal. Amir and Lena arrived early, both aware that this was the moment everything they had worked for would be finalized. Amir carried the fully revised contract in a sleek leather folder. Every clause had been carefully reviewed and every hidden trap removed. He had confidence in the document, but he also knew that the success of the deal depended on clarity, trust, and transparency. Lena followed quietly, carrying her notes. Though young, she had played a critical role in securing the contract and protecting the company. Today, her observations and insight would be recognized fully. The executives from the other side entered the boardroom. Their expressions were careful, measured, showing neither confidence nor hostility. They had learned through previous confrontations that Amir and Lena were alert and precise, and any attempt at deception would be noticed immediately. The tension in the room was present, but it was different from before. Calm, cautious, and respectful, Amir placed the folder on the table and looked at everyone in the room. The contract has been reviewed and corrected. It is fair, transparent, and fully protects the interests of all parties. We can now proceed to finalize the deal. His tone was steady and firm, leaving no room for argument or misunderstanding. Lena stepped forward, holding her notes and prepared to summarize the key points of the revised contract. She had spent hours reviewing the clauses to ensure there were no hidden dangers. All previously hidden clauses have been removed, she said clearly. The terms are fair. There is no risk of secret transfer of control or hidden penalties. The contract is now safe and transparent. The investors in the room, who had observed the previous confrontations carefully, nodded in approval. They recognized the importance of Lena's contribution and Amir's careful review. Today, intelligence, vigilance, and courage had triumphed over hidden traps and manipulation. The room felt different. There was a sense of mutual respect and understanding. One of the executives spoke, his voice measured. We acknowledge the corrections. We understand the need for transparency and fairness. We are ready to finalize the contract under these terms. His tone showed a mix of respect and caution. He knew that any further attempt at deception could risk losing the deal entirely. Amir nodded, signaling the lawyers to bring the signing pens. Each participant took their seat carefully, aware that this final stage would confirm the fairness of the agreement. Lena stayed close to Amir, quietly observing, ready to clarify or translate any point if necessary. Her presence reminded everyone in the room that sharp observation and intelligence could never be ignored. The first pen touched the paper, and the signatures began. Amir signed carefully, then handed the pen to the lead executive. One by one, each person signed, sealing the contract with fairness and transparency. The hidden traps that had almost jeopardized the deal were now gone, and the company's future was secure. As the final signature was placed, a sense of relief filled the room. Amir leaned back slightly, satisfied that the contract was complete and protected. Lena's calm smile reflected her quiet pride. She had contributed to this success in ways that went far beyond her official role. Her observations, courage, and intelligence had ensured the safety of a deal worth hundreds of millions. One of the investors stood and addressed the room. Today we have witnessed an important lesson. Intelligence, vigilance, and courage can safeguard even the most complex agreements. Mr. Amir and the young lady here have ensured fairness and transparency. This is a model for how business should be conducted. Amir looked at Lena, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. You have played an invaluable role, he said sincerely. Your careful observation, insight, and courage made the difference. Without you, the hidden traps might have gone unnoticed. You have earned respect from everyone here. Lena felt a warm sense of pride. She had acted quietly, carefully, and bravely, and now her contributions were recognized. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Intelligence and courage could come from anyone, and today she had proven that. The executives, now fully aware that attempts at manipulation were no longer possible, nodded respectfully. They understood that transparency and honesty were the only way forward. The atmosphere in the room had shifted from tension to cooperation, as everyone realized that a fair agreement was not only possible, but essential. Amir and Lena discussed the next steps. They reviewed the implementation plans, ensuring that all terms were clear and executable. The investors listened, impressed by the thoroughness and clarity of the process. Every detail had been considered and every potential risk addressed. Today, intelligence, preparation, and courage had ensured a positive outcome. After the meeting, Amir and Lena stepped out onto the balcony overlooking Neo Dubai. The city shimmered in the late afternoon sunlight, a landscape of possibility and opportunity. Flying cars moved like streaks of light, and people went about their lives unaware of the drama that had unfolded above them. Amir felt a sense of accomplishment. Today was more than a business victory. It was a triumph of careful thinking, observation, and integrity. Lena stood beside him, quietly proud. She had learned that even someone without authority could influence important decisions. Her careful observations had prevented disaster, protected a company, and ensured fairness. She realized that intelligence and courage could make a difference anywhere, at any time. Amir looked at her and smiled. You have proven that status or title does not define ability. Intelligence, observation, and courage do. Today you have made a difference that will be remembered. Lena felt a sense of satisfaction and humility. She had acted not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. Yet the recognition she received was meaningful. She had shown that careful thinking and bravery could triumph over hidden dangers and manipulation. The executives left quietly, their previous confidence replaced by respect. They had learned that deception could not succeed against vigilance and intelligence. Amir's company was safe, the contract was secure, and the deal could now continue without fear. Later, Amir held a small gathering to celebrate the successful conclusion of the deal. Investors, colleagues, and partners attended. He made a special point to acknowledge Lena's contributions. Her observations and courage were instrumental in protecting this deal, he said. She has shown that intelligence and careful attention are invaluable. The room applauded, and Lena felt a quiet happiness. She had never expected recognition, yet her actions had earned it. She realized that true courage and intelligence are noticed, even if one comes from humble beginnings. The day ended with a sense of completion and accomplishment. Amir and Lena had navigated the challenges, exposed the hidden traps, and ensured the safety of a $500 million deal. But more than that, they had demonstrated the power of intelligence, courage, and honesty. As night fell over Neo Dubai, the city sparkled like a sea of stars. Amir reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. He had learned that wealth and power alone were not enough. True success required vigilance, careful observation, and the courage to act when it mattered most. Lena had shown all of these qualities, and her contributions had changed the outcome of an important deal. Lena returned home that evening, her mind filled with the lessons of the day. She shared her experience with her mother, who hugged her tightly. "I knew you were special," her mother said. "You have the eyes to see what others miss and the courage to act. Today, you proved it." Amir stayed late in the office, reviewing the final documents and preparing for the next steps of the company's growth. He felt confident, knowing that with careful thinking, honesty, and intelligence, his company could face any challenge. Lena had proven that even someone without authority could make a critical difference, and that lesson would guide him in the future. The $500 million deal was now fully secured. The hidden traps were gone, the contract was fair, and the company's future was protected. But the story of this success was more than a financial victory. It was a story of courage, intelligence, and the power of observation. Lena, once unseen, had become a key figure in ensuring the company's safety. Neo Dubai continued to shine at night, a city of ambition, innovation, and opportunity. Amir knew that future challenges would arise, but he was ready. He had seen firsthand the value of intelligence, courage, and vigilance. Lena had demonstrated that even the smallest voice, when combined with insight and bravery, could change the outcome of critical events. As the city lights reflected in the glass towers, Amir and Lena both felt a sense of accomplishment. The deal was complete, the company protected, and a new chapter was beginning. The $500 million contract had been saved. But more importantly, a lesson had been proven: fairness, intelligence, and courage could overcome even the most carefully hidden dangers. Lena smiled quietly, proud of what she had accomplished. She had observed, analyzed, and spoken up when it mattered most. Her actions had changed the outcome of a major business deal and protected the company from disaster. Today, she had proven that